Welcome, Shaa. How are you today?
Welcome to the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez. Entrepreneurs are leading the way and creating a whole new level of possibility. Each week, listen in to hear how brilliant entrepreneurs share their brave secrets. Entrepreneurship is not the easy way. It is the brave way. Now let's get our brave on.
I'm really good and glad to be here. Different sides of the world, but
That's right.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, tell everyone where you are.
So I am in London in the UK, and yeah, it's probably totally different weather to where you are. It's grey and miserable and raining, and yeah, I'm not really selling London very well.
We're not selling it. I can sell California real quick. I'm like sunny, 65.
In the winter, 65 in the winter, 85 in the summer. What's not to love?
That's right. I'm playing beach volleyball every Wednesday. So I'm like, I'll sell California. You can come this direction.
Do you know I was born in California?
You do what?
I was born in California.
Really? This area, what part?
I was born in Sunnyvale near Mountain View.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, your accent doesn't tell us that.
I left California when I was 11, so I lost the accent. But yeah,
got it.
I still have my US passport and everything.
Wow. Well, then it'll make it easy to visit. So I know, that's amazing. I still want to see. I have not been to London and that area.
London is great. The weather's not necessarily so great, but there are so many cool things about London.
Yeah. There's too much to see. Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you joining me in this international call and conversation. And I just would love to start with an introduction of who you are and what you do in the world, if you could share that with us.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Shaa, and today I'm on my 5th 7-figure business. And I say that for context because my previous 4 businesses weren't online. They were more traditional businesses. And this is very much an entirely online business. So I'm an online educator, and I can explain what that means in a little bit. But also I share it because, for context, where I came from, I grew up in what you guys would call the projects in social housing. So we couldn't even afford to rent our own home. We were in, housing provided by the state. And I had a very challenging upbringing. And I share that because I think it's really important that no matter where you're at right now, that you can always find someone who has broken through. And if you model that person and you look at what they've done and how they've done it, I really do think it paves the way for you. It makes things easier for you. Right. And I'm not saying that this has been an easy journey. I'm not saying that I haven't made mistakes. I've made a ton of mistakes. And I think I'll probably carry on making a ton of mistakes because I'm human. And I think that's what we all do, right? None of us are perfect. But today, I'm so grateful to get to do work that I love. And my mission is to create financial empowerment for all. So my mission is to take care of the people who weren't born at the very front of the line and actually get those people who weren't born at the front of the line as quickly as possible to the front of the line. So for me, my platform is business. My platform is teaching people how to make money online, whether that's through online courses or memberships. I want to teach people how to create scalable businesses that not just help them make 6 figures, but really crucially take 6 figures home. Yeah. And that is my mission. Because when as a family unit, you get to start to take 6 figures home, your life changes. Because taking 6 figures home means that you've paid your taxes, you've done everything. These 6 figures are all yours. And so you have a surplus. And when you have a surplus, you get to invest in assets, whether that's, housing and real estate, or whether that's your 401k or your pension, as we'd call it in the UK. But you have choices, right? That is the figure. Some people want to go to 7, awesome. But what I know for sure is that when you start to take home 6 figures, that is the most significant point of change for anyone.
I love that. Yeah, and because I used to be a controller, which the accounting world, and helping entrepreneurs, navigate that, it it's concerning to me how many business owners come into the picture and only focus on the top line and actually only promote the top line. It's like, I've made 7 figures, but I'm like, have you profited 7 figures, or are you profitable? I mean, you don't have to, you can make 7 figures all day long. And I'm like, great. Right. But are you managing the expense? Are you creating the discretionary? Are you creating the abundance so that when you've paid all your taxes and you've checked all the boxes, that you actually have something left over? And I always said, it's like, I'm not here to make $1 million by spending $1.5 million. Right.
100,
Right.
100.
Yeah.
And
This
here's
is
the
good.
thing that, most people might not realize is that you could have an entrepreneur who's turning over 6 figures, and you could have an entrepreneur who's turning over 7 figures. And the entrepreneur who's turning over 6 figures could actually be taking home more money than the one doing 7. And I know which one I'd rather be. The one who's taking home more money, right? So, we talk about profit first now in this entrepreneurial world a lot. We talk about the concept of profit first, but I think that people should be focused on income first. Like, how much income are you taking out of your business? And that's
personal income.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Not revenue of the business, but personal income. Yeah.
100%. I see people, racking up, they building their business, but they're racking up their expenses at a faster rate than the business is increasing.
That's right.
And that just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, number one, I love that conversation. I think it's a very important mind flip that people need to have. And the more that we talk about that, the more that we educate, people about that. Yes, when, it's like when you first get into business, like, how can I make money? Yes. And then do so, but also at the same time, how can I continue to, create the profitability? When do you feel, I'm just curious, because I feel like this is the question out there in the world is, it's like at the beginning of business, right? We're creating money. We're focused on the revenue of the business and not so much of the income. And I know they're listening to the conversation called, I got to spend money to make money. Right. So what is your rule of thumb around, creating when does profit kick in? When do you, it's like, okay, you've invested enough now you need to focus on revenue, or is there a fine line for you?
So for me, I think about making 6 figures as a business. Then I think about taking 6 figures home as a person. And then I think about keeping 6 figures. So they're 3 different stages, right?
There you go.
So you're making 6 figures. That's your first goal. How do I get my business to make 6 figures? How do I get my 6 figures a year?
We're back.
Oh, is that just?
That was a fun little word by word.
Don't know where we stopped.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just. Okay. No. All right, he's done it. So it's first of all making 6 figures in your business. Then it's taking 6 figures home as an individual, and then it's keeping 6 figures. Because if you can keep 6 figures a year, then all you need is 10 years, and you've kept $1 million, right? So for me, I don't really understand this I think you should be profitable from day one. I think you should aim to be profitable from day one. I do not recommend that people use up not today, right? Not in 2021, 2022, whenever you guys are listening to this, back in the 1980s, when maybe you had to invest upfront in equipment and technology. Okay. But not in this day and age. You should be able to set a business up, and you should be profitable from day one.
That's true.
Because we don't have the same costs that we used to have.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that. I think that's a great perspective. And I do think we have a lot more benefit and a lot more capability. And, the businesses I've started, or even just like, I'm going to be a consultant, I'd go out on my own and be a consultant. That's really almost 95% profitable, because there's, it's like, oh, I got to buy some business cards and, and letterhead maybe back in the day. I don't even use letterhead now, but it's, and that's where I began, over 15 years ago, was just starting with that mindset of what service can I sell that doesn't require a lot of upfront investment. And I always look at things as like impact versus input. Like, what's the lowest input, money, time, energy, that I can give or provide
maximum
impact? Yeah.
100%.
There you go.
And for me, I am never afraid of them. I spend about 100,000 US a year on my own personal or business development, whether it's masterminds or coaching or mentorship, whatever it is. I'm all about that because I know that I'm at a stage where, well, to be honest, I was at that stage when I was 21. If I'm spending $1, I'm going to make 10. That's my attitude. And I won't spend another $1 until I've made my 10 back. So where I think the challenge is that people go from learning to learning to learning.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
You need to learn and earn, and every time you can take a step up, right? So you learn something, you put it into practice, and then you earn some more money. And then you invest in something else to learn something else, and you put it into practice and you earn some more money. The challenge comes when people are constantly learning but not putting into practice what they're learning. So because they don't put it into practice, they don't earn.
That's right. Yeah, they just keep learning, keep buying the next product or program or what have you. So yeah, 100%. I think that's really important to say. I was actually going to bring that up because I feel like that's it's its own epidemic where we constantly are investing in courses and programs and courses in that next shiny object, and yet we're really not implementing and executing on any of it. So thank you for sharing that. And so the other thing, as you were sharing your story and kind of your origin story, I would love to go back to that a little bit. Not so much, me too, right? I came from, a hardship, financially, food stamps, welfare, things like that. It just a hard time as a child. And so it was a matter of mindset and emotional resilience that got me to where I am. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit more of how did you, if you're saying, I think you said the fifth business, right? Fifth successful business. And so what do you feel it takes internally to create that? Like, what was that formula for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, what I find really interesting, and this isn't a brag, it might be a humble brag, but it's not an out-and-out brag. I've been taking home 6 figures and then multiple 6 figures since I was 21. So the reason I say this is, imagine that this is somebody who'd never been given a penny in her life, who grew up, in the projects. So if I could take home 6 figures at 21, let me make no mistake about it. That was because of my mindset, not because of my skill set. That is my point I want to make here. Not bragging what money I've made. I'm saying, listen, if I was taking home 6 figures at 21, it was because my mindset was in the right place. Because at 21, unless I was a professional sports player, which I wasn't, or an actress, I didn't have a skill set that could warrant taking home 6 figures. But I had a mindset that could warrant and help me make 100%. And take 6 figures home, right? So I think your mindset is crucial. And I find it really interesting. I don't know about you, Jena, but for me, I don't do that much one-to-one work anymore. But the one-to-one work I do, it's usually about the 1% increment change that people want to make. And the more successful people are, the more they focus on mindset. So people who are kind of stuck on a plateau, typically they want to learn a new trick or a new tip or a new strategy or a new business model. And all of those things are great. And I teach them all myself. But if you don't get your mindset right first, whatever anyone teaches you isn't going to have the impact that you want it to. So what I see is the more successful somebody is, the more prepared they are to invest their time and their money in mindset first. So somebody doing 7 figures is going to say, I don't need help with my business model. I need help with my mindset. Like, what is stopping me from breaking through to the multiple 6 figures? Or somebody on multiple 6 figures who for 3 years, they're saying, I don't get it. Like, why can't I break through this ceiling? They know it's not a new tactic they need to learn. It's their mindset. And so the irony is, the more and more successful people are, the more they value mindset. And the people who are really struggling to break through to that initial success, they think that it's about a tool or a tactic or a technique, when in reality, the most important thing they could do is build the foundations, and the foundations are always your mindset. And by the way, this happens to me too. It probably happens to you, Jena. I've always got to do mindset work, because it's like, it's like playing Mario Kart. Next level, new devil, right? So we hit a plateau. We got to learn something new. I knew how to get through that maze, but I don't know how to get through my next maze.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because, one of the things I'm actually hired in to be the mindset and emotional strength trainer for other people's programs, business programs, because the part that's, we can do strategy all day long. And I used to focus on business strategy, and I was like, this is not the game. This, I can do that in my sleep. But the trick is the emotional and mindset strategy, and resilience and conditioning and all of that, the breakthroughs. And so when that support is in place, which is like 80% of, if not more, of the game, then you show up being ready for the success and creating that for yourself. Love that.
It's incredible how many brilliant people you see sabotaging themselves, right?
100%.
So they have these opportunities and they don't follow through on them. They were supposed to make that phone call, and for some reason they didn't make the phone call. They were, they have this great program, but for some reason they don't want to launch it. Like,
Right.
that's all mindset issues.
So how did you shift? And I think everybody's wanting to know how'd you fill in the gap between, and maybe it's about telling and sharing with us what your mindset was when you were in the projects, right? When you're in that space, and where you came from, and what did you come through in order to shift the mindset enough to be the person that's successful at 21?
So for me, I've got to be honest, because I don't think it helps people by trying to pretend that I didn't have a strong mindset and then I suddenly found some magic potion.
Correct.
For me, it was I had something to rally. I had something to rally. I saw, my parents went through a really bad divorce, and in that divorce, my mom was left with nothing. And so I think I was probably about 8 years old when I made a decision in my own mind at 8, like, excuse my language, but F that, I am not doing this in my lifetime. Like, I'm going to take care of me, right? Yep. I'm going to take care of me. So at a very young age, I really had something to push against, to fight against. And for me, what I was fighting against was I'm never being poor. I'm never having somebody take everything away from me. I'm never going to be in a situation where a man can take everything away from me. That is never happening in my lifetime. And so I think I just had this fighting spirit in my DNA, and I'm very grateful for that, because I think that was genuinely something that I was born with. I am a fighter, right? I actually at one point was the only licensed female boxing manager in the world. So I don't know if you knew that, but
no.
So that's like I spent 5 years promoting boxing at the highest level. Worked with Don King, the only woman in the world who was licensed at that time. I'm a fighter in my spirit, and for me it was like I knew that if it was going to change, I had to change it. That I couldn't rely on somebody else to save me, and I didn't want anyone else to save me. I wanted to be able to fix it for myself. And so I think for me, my mindset issues actually started to kick in when I hit a level of success that I previously couldn't have imagined. Right?
Yeah. Okay, got it.
So when you have nothing and you think your level, what you're aiming for is like, maybe when you have nothing, the first thing I was aiming for was my own house, a roof above my head that was mine, that I own. I bought my first house at 21. I bought my second at 23. Like, I am hardcore, like I'm all in. But what happened was when I got to the point where I had like a multi-million-dollar house, and I had 2 multi-million-dollar houses. I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do next. Right. And now I'm in this no man's land. I'm cruising. I'm just cruising. I don't know what to do next. I don't have anything to push against, right?
Yes.
So I don't have anything to push against. What do I do now? That was when, for me, that's when I realized, oh, you've got mindset challenges that you fix to get you to the next level. That's right. And then part of those mindset challenges, Jena, are, do you even go to the next level? Because why are we always moving towards the next level? What's wrong with where we are? You have to be intentional about that. It's okay to stay where you are if you're intentionally choosing to stay where you are. That's right. But if you are staying where you are because you haven't addressed mindset issues and you actually really want to go somewhere else, that's not okay. So there's so many complexities to it. But for me, it's very much like, if I don't have something to push against, I don't know what to do, because I've grown up with something to push against.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened to me. Is I had something to push against, and I actually identified like basically 4 levels of brave consciousness, right? And that first level that you and I were in, I would say both of us were in that space, was that brave by survival. So the choices we made were pushing against something, like running from, oh, it's like I'm going
Yes.
away from that. I'm not going to
Yes.
be that. And so it's survival mode. It's like everybody, I moved out at 14 because I was moving away from something I could not be with anymore. I bought my first house and condo at 24. It's like, and so I was always looking at what I didn't want, and it was a lot easier to push away and create that momentum. And then the next level is brave by choice, realizing that you actually have ownership, you have choice, you create your reality. And like you're saying, you're at these plateaus and you're at these no man lands because we didn't come from that. And recognizing that you get to create and imagine and have all the things to do with what your life looks like. And it's also part of that stage for me where I personally really started taking personal ownership of my past, of my history, of my choices, good or bad, right? And then I feel like where I am now, and I'm curious kind of what level you feel like you're at, is brave by purpose. So it's actually a pull versus a push. And honestly, I believe that's the hardest. Or like you said, there's a whole different nuance to having to pull yourself into your purpose or your why, or then creating the necessity of what's next, and not knowing what it looks like, and why are we doing it? It's always looking at, do I choose this, and do I consciously want this? And then am I ready and preparing myself mindset wise to have it? And so what would you say, and kind of, do you relate to that? Because does that kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, 100%. So for me, last year, 2020, the year of the pandemic, the year of, just complete madness all over the world,
Yeah.
it was a real year of reflection for me. I kind of took my foot off the gas and I coasted for a year in my business thinking, I don't know what I want to do. What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Like really going back to, hold up a second. And what I learned about myself is that at my core, I'm a creative activist who happens to be really good at business. So what I learned was that, the things that matter to me most are standing up for equity, not just equality, whether that's gender discrimination or racial discrimination. These are the things that really matter to me. And my way of addressing it is through business, because I know that if I can empower more women, if I can empower more non-white men, I'm not anti-white men, I'm just saying that in order to level the playing field, we have to
for that. Yeah.
100%. Being pro-female doesn't make you anti-male.
Correct.
And my point is that if we're going to level the playing field, we have to be realistic about where we're at. And if we're realistic about where we're at, there are huge demographics of people that need way more support and airtime and visibility, and amplifying in order to level that playing field and move everyone forwards. So for me, what I realized was that business is the way that I can do that, because I can teach anyone how to make 6 figures. I can teach anyone from any background how to take 6 figures home. And that is when that shifted in me at the end of 2020. And so this year, I'm probably more excited than ever before, because I've put all of that into a new program that I'm launching later on this year called Empowered, and it empowered by name, empowered by nature. I don't want to be anyone's guru. I want to empower other people to be their own guru. I want to empower other people, with the skills and the tools and the lessons and the mindset to not just go out there and make 6 figures in their business, but take 6 figures home. And I want them to be able to do that on a repeated basis, not have to keep coming back to the person who taught them how to, create an online course or whatever it was. For me, the power should be with the people. And the way that, for me personally, my passion and my mission and my pull now is how many people can I empower to do that? That's my goal.
There you go. Brave by purpose. Yeah. And I think it takes so much more courage and brave to step into something that's unknown, that's riskier because you haven't been there before. And you're pulling yourself towards something to be right, but you don't necessarily can see what you're going to gain. You can only see what you might lose. And I think that's the bravest action we can take, and the bravest, mindset we can have. And I really honor you for taking that reflection time. And it's almost like we had, for me too, it was a big year of, I dealt with a lot of, healing emotional wounds, and like opening things up and seeing what I needed to, in order to become the next person, the next level of me. And I feel like you could either have done that, or you could have focused on the external circumstances and just whined about it, right?
Yep.
Complain and whine and blame that for you not being where you want to be. Otherwise, there's such a huge opportunity to, at any given moment, no matter what's happening outside of us, to own our choices, and to look at what do we want and who do we have to become to have it. And I love how you shared that mindset. And so it's interesting, if somebody's listening to this and doesn't necessarily have the hardship childhood that we had, or the adversity that we may have experienced and can connect to, what would you recommend them look at as far as how to create the pull or the push, whichever way they want to do it?
Yeah, so I would say you don't have to have come from, a background as challenging as ours to find a push or a pull. I think that what you have to do is you have to press pause for a minute, and you have to really sit with yourself and say, okay, I don't mean the big esoteric, what's my why? That's a good question too, but I'm talking from a practical, pragmatic, stoic business sense. What do I want to do? Right. So there are some core questions. What do I want to do? Let's actually start with, very basic. Who do I want to be? Right. It sounds super simple, but it's way more complex. Right? It's pretty deep.
You better ask a few layers.
Right. Absolutely. So who do I want to be?
Right.
How do I want to show up? Who do I want to serve? And how do I want to serve them? Those 4 questions. That's all I ask myself every stage. Who do I want to be? And by the way, that can change, right?
That's right.
So when I started this business 5 years ago, who did I want to be? Honestly, I just wanted to be a 7-figure online business. That's what I wanted to be. That's who I wanted to be. And so I made that happen. Who do I want to be now? That's a whole different thing. Who I want to be now is someone who only does the work that she loves.
Yeah.
Who do I want to be now? Someone who empowers others to do the same.
That's right.
So how do I want to show up? 100% authentically as myself. And I want to be a magnet. And being a magnet means I'm going to pull in all the people that are right for me, but it also means I'm going to push away all the people that are wrong for me. When I started out, who did I want to be? I want to be everything to everyone, right? So we go through these iterations and we learn. Who do I want to serve? I'm very clear on this. I want to serve entrepreneurs and small business owners who've got a passion and a desire to do more, who are prepared to do the work, and they don't want to sit on a fence. They want to make progress, and they're all in on making it happen. How do I want to serve them? I want to serve them through online coaching and programs that empower them with the skills to do it for themselves, as opposed to be reliant on any external force. So I've got really clear on that. But I think you have to ask yourself those 4 questions on a frequent basis, because you'd be surprised when you ask yourself those questions 6 months later, your automatic answer that comes up in your head, it might be different.
Right. I love that. And it's interesting. The word that came to me is that we're in the process of refinement at any given moment, at any given, every quarter, every 6 months, right? Ask the same questions, but look deeper. And I think part of what's brave about that, because 2 years ago, I had a very kind of a rock bottom, hit my head against the wall, look at those questions and get the right answers, right? It was because I noticed I was coasting. I was, it's almost like I was living the decisions I had previously made.
Right.
And
that is usually a sign, Jenna.
Yep.
That you need to ask yourself those questions. When you know that you're coasting,
that's right.
And you're not doing as much as you should, you're not doing as much as you could, you're not earning as much as you should, you're not earning as much as you could, and you're just kind of getting by, whatever that looks like to you, you need to ask yourself those questions, because something is amiss.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Something's out of alignment and congruency with where you really want to go. And so once I asked those questions, everything changed, right? And here I am, living on the other side of that. And I think that's really important for people to hear, is that it is a refinement process. It's not like one and done. Like, make the decision and never change.
It is a perpetual and
Yes.
ongoing work in progress.
Yeah. 100%.
It's a never ending work in progress.
So one of my, I guess, final questions about that, and I think for people to get, is that when they start answering those questions, because I think it takes a lot of brave to look at those questions honestly, because I feel like, certainly in my experience, there were things I had to give up. There was risk I had to take with relationships when I was like, I'm no longer interested in this business partnership or whatever it is. I risked a lot emotionally. And so how would you recommend? I know what my advice would be, but what's your advice to people when they are asking those questions and they're sometimes surprised by the honest answer? How do they move forward and create, their next level of themselves?
Yeah, so I think it depends on how challenging those answers are. First of all, you've got to respect and recognize your answers. All right.
Right.
So
100%.
don't try to pretend that you didn't get the answers that you did. So you might not like the answers that your mind came up with,
That's
but
right.
they are the answers.
That's
So
the
respect
answer.
them,
Yep.
right? Respect them and recognize them. Now, if those answers require a seismic shift in your personal relationship, your business relationship, and this is going to create a degree of uncertainty or overwhelm or vulnerability, take it step by step. You don't have to jump out the frying pan into the fire. You don't have to acknowledge these choices and decisions. Go, right, that's it, I'm getting divorced. Right, that's it, I'm coming out of this business partnership. Right?
Exactly.
That's not what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm suggesting is you sit down and go, okay, well, that is my honest answer. I don't want to be in this business partnership anymore, or I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. So now, how do I remove myself in the most graceful way for me and for them possible? So that's the first thing that I would say. I would say you have to respect and recognize the answers that you came up with. And then if it's going to require seismic change that's going to cause ripples in your life, take a step back and say, okay, this is my answer. And I recognize it's going to cause me some challenges. So how can I plan to handle this as gracefully as possible for myself and for the other people?
Yeah. Beautiful. And I second that. I think it is for me, it's simply about being conscious to it, conscious to the answers, conscious and thoughtful and mindful about how you approach the next step, but also being willing to take the risk in order to be aligned with who you are and what you want.
100%.
Because other people are not necessarily, they're going to have their own resistance. They're going to have their own thoughts and opinions, and you shouldn't do that, and you should do it this way, and right, all that. And I feel like
everybody's going to have their opinion. Everyone's always going to have their opinion.
They can have a whiteboard list of everybody else's opinion. But I love that you shared that, because I think people need to know that. I think the problem that mostly exists is that we hear the answer and then we ignore it because it's too risky to do anything about it. It's too uncomfortable. Yeah. So the brave thing to do is to get a little uncomfortable and face it, and then let the magic happen, right? And create it for yourself. 100%. So beautiful. Well, I could go on and on. I think this is really great. It's so nice to know you and meet you and share your message and brilliance with everyone. And so what's the best way they can connect with you so they can get to know you as well?
So the best way to connect with me, if you're on Clubhouse, I am slightly addicted to Clubhouse. So come find me at Shaa on Clubhouse. Or
awesome.
Oh my days. I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. Then I am so addicted to it. Or with an unusual name like Shaa Wasmund, you'll find me on all social media, but hop on over to my website, SHAA.com. And I think if I was to say to you guys, no matter where you're at in your journey, if you really want to start focusing on scaling your business online, for me, the best way for you guys to get started is to create what I call a pop-up product, which is instead of all the free lead magnets, which bring it onto your list, but they may or may not actually really be interested in what you do, I create a pop-up product that's under $50. So it's easy for people to say yes to. It should be no more than 60 to 90 minutes worth of content. So it's easy for you to create, but it's also easy for your buyers to consume. So here's the thing, if they consume it, they get a win. And if they get a win, they're going to come back for more wins. And this for me is the foundation of building any online business, because really you want a list of buyers and not browsers. And yes, we can all have our big, $2,000 transformational programs. I have them. Jenna, you might have them. I'm sure people listening have them. But actually, you'd get more people on those programs if you had a front end product that was just super easy for people to say yes to. At $50, I see you, I like you, I buy you. It should be that simple.
Nice.
I just think that this is just the number one thing people should do to build you want to build a small but mighty list, right? You don't have to have a list of 100,000 people. You can start with a small but mighty list of buyers, not browsers. Then you can build a mightier list, rather than having, I'd rather have 1,000 people on my list who'd bought something from me, even if it was only at $50, than 10,000 people who were sitting on the fence thinking about whether they were even going to do anything.
They're window shopping. Yeah, exactly.
But I just always believe in like really super practical advice. Like, what can I do and what can I share with you and what can I teach you that you can actually go away and implement today?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to make a difference, not something that you have to think about 6 months.
Got it. Wonderful. And is that at your website, or is that a separate link? The pop-up information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there you are. You're back. You've went out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, you can check it out at shaa.com/brave pop-up. And it is literally a $50 course that teaches you how to create your own pop-up products. And the reason this is the number one thing I share or teach with people is because it's just really easy. And I think that the number one thing, particularly right now with everything that's going on, also we all feel overwhelmed by creating the next big thing. And if you can just help people create momentum, it's the same if you want to, if you're going on like a fitness kick and you want to you don't suddenly go, I'm going to go run a marathon. You say, okay, let me go and start by running, 1 mile, 3 miles. And the same should be true for business, right? How can we create momentum in people's businesses? Because if we create momentum, then it's more likely that you're going to be able to maintain that momentum.
Sustainable. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you for providing that. And I just am really excited to see what you do next. And I appreciate this mindset and emotional, kind of strength training conversation around success. And
I love that. It's so important. It's so important.
So is. It's just like, it's my heart. It's like how I want people to really grow. So, final question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want everybody to understand who's listening. I just want everybody to understand who's listening that your mindset is like your foundation. You would not house without any foundations.
That's
and when you build a business without focusing on your mindset, you are literally building a business without any foundations.
That's right. 100%. It is what holds the house up. Awesome. Well, I just want to close out with one final question. And so if this was your last interview, the last stage, right? Nowhere else to go. What would be the message to the world that you would want to leave?
My message would be simple. Just leave the world a better place than you found it.
Amen. That's all I want. Something very simple yet super profound, and I love it. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for being here. Yeah, you're welcome. And to everyone listening, until next time, let's go get our brave on.